good development that really saves the time and makes a general software and makes a profitable product for the client, it's not a linear process to arrive at it. It's not something that you stack the bricks and eventually you have a stack of bricks that's high enough that the client wanted. Each step of the process is a creative process that reasons on what you've already created, what's the best way to repurpose or generalize parts of what you've created, what's the best way to anticipate that the future needs of the software are going to change and make the right generalizations instead of wasting time on, generalizing something. Say, I know that most cars are going to make 4 wheels. I would never make a blueprint where I can make the number of wheels like an arbitrary parameter, like you could put 5 or 7 or whatever. Although maybe even in that case, I make an 18-wheeler truck where I need to have the 18 wheel positions and know how all the weight is balanced. So maybe there's more analogy there. In any case, really, the bottom line is it's really, really hard to estimate how long a software project is going to take to reach completion. And for the same reason, it's very difficult to budget how much it's going to cost.
And how much long it's going to take.
Mm.
I was fiddling with myself on here because there is a document that coincidentally came to my hands today that I've been given from somebody in a... And he has a lot of comments that are very interesting because I am not a salesperson of the kinds that make promises that clearly cannot be maintained just to close a sale.
Mm.
I try beforehand to clearly say, look, if you want to do this, expect this amount of work, this amount of time. You want less, we need to do less. There is no way that you can get the same in less.
Which every client wants, right?
They can say put more people, but they say, look, a woman take 9 months to make a baby, like my wife is in process of doing this now. 9 women doesn't make a baby in 1 month.
Hmm.
There is a set of process to make a baby that doesn't matter how many women you put there, it's gonna take always 9 months. For the production of a certain architecture of software, mostly when it comes to blockchain, you cannot escape. This, if you want to implement a solution of a certain kind, you need to go through certain steps, which by experience we know it takes certain amount of time, and is going to arrive at the... If we promise less, it means that when the time comes, we need to say, sorry, but, and then it's going to take more. And if the client doesn't follow the plan, because change plan as it go, then it's going to take longer. I think it's an automatic. So the kind of agile approach in a project that has a clear map of how to achieve a destination is dangerous, because in software, like per se, if I build a house, I make the foundation to support 2 stories. As I go build the second story, the client says, well, make another 3 stories. And I say, sorry, the foundation that I made is to have 2 stories on top of it. If I make more, the house can collapse. So you need to know when you start making the foundation, how many stories you want to build. Maybe you don't do them all at the beginning, but the foundation needs to be there to support that.
This requires a lot of discipline as well to actually maintain this, because the clients, often, they're business thinking people. They understand their business domain very well. They don't understand these kind of details of software development very well. And very often, the client is looking realistically at what's in front of their face and what they need. And when you tell them, if you try to add those 3 stories to the house, it's going to collapse, they'll go, yeah, you just build it. I'll worry about that. And or even, if, well, God forbid the contract says that we worry about that, still they try to push us to do it anyway. We're dropping 50% of our frames now?
Oh man, because the internet is slow. Wow.
Should we continue? Can you guys still hear us?
Write a comment in the Facebook, in the YouTube, in whatever you are. We can read them.
For the beginning,
I can mention, what's going on. Probably something happened to the internet cable.
Well, you know what? Let's just continue this fireside chat between ourselves. If they hear
so, the client says, our approach of moving fast and breaking things and Roberto's approach are very different and probably not compatible. because I suggest first you need to have a full analysis and then you implement based on this analysis. You cannot do as you go.
What a phrase to say our approach of moving fast and breaking things. So this is one of those things that, like, in the very beginning of a business, you can get away with because you have nothing to ruin, like you barely started to build the thing. But even then, it's this.
Have a realistic timeline, possibly finish early, versus an optimistic timeline with possible delays. Is unlikely to budge from this principle, so if we insist on a different approach, the gap will lead to tension. But correct.
Correct.
You come to me and says, build the house, it says it's gonna take 1 year, says no, I want it in 4 months. Well, you know what, in 4 months you're gonna have half of the house, or if you wanna meet, the whole house is gonna collapse under your feet, but then don't complain if that happens. But if the goal is to have a stable house, it take a year, and we have to follow, to know from the zero how many story it is, so that the foundation are made properly, to know and proceed correctly.
It's really, and this is exactly the kind of thing that we're talking about, is that I want to be very fair to clients who want big software projects, which is that it's not their fault that they don't understand some of the considerations that go into making the software possible. They didn't study as, computer science engineers. They're probably, in many cases, they're experts in their business domain. They understand a lot of complicated things that we don't understand within their business domain. And like many people, I think, and like we can when we look at their business domain also, sometimes when we first realize what a client is doing, like, we are tempted to see it as simpler than it actually is, and we have to take a step back and make sure that we put in the full depth of understanding, because this is like the Dunning-Kruger syndrome, right? The very first time that you're exposed to an idea, your tendency is to assume that it's very simple and you're intelligent enough to have just understood it when you heard it. And then after that, you go through a long, painful process of realizing your understanding was not large enough to accommodate all the stuff that there was to know there. And so we get this from...
And this applies on both sides.
On both sides, I want to be fair, yeah. So we get this from clients potentially, that when we first say, like, oh, there's going to be these challenges, they go, yeah, no worry, just try. And then we go, no, there's going to be these challenges, and it's going to cause your business to burn and fail if you don't pay attention to what we say. And they go, oh, just try.
And then it wouldn't fail.
We've had some projects like this that didn't go well, where we said clearly many times from the beginning, like, it's going to go like this if you proceed like that, and they insisted.
Then there is the ethical aspect in
They're
this.
Paying us to work at the end of the day.
You say,
if they insist...
I am a consultant, I'm an ethical consultant, you pay me because you want me to say what you want to hear, then go get a pirate. Don't get a consulting. If I'm honest and ethical, I'm gonna say to you things that you don't like to hear. That your idea is not feasible the way that you want, that you're gonna take this, because else, if I tell you yes, then you shouldn't pay me. I'm just a buddy that give you, right? Most of all, if I'm consulting, because later you want me to do the thing. It's my interest to be super clear and precise on what to expect.
I know for a fact that this is a general phenomenon, because there are some consultants that we pay, and they try to tell us something's not going to go well if we do our idea, and what do we say? Oh, fuck you, we're going to do it this way because it makes sense to us.
Renovation in our office,
we watch them make the face that we make to our clients when they insist that we proceed against their advice.
Renovation our office, we gave a budget of $30,000, but why don't you also the artist? We ended up spending $150,000. But the office is nice for sure. Yeah. But yet, yes, in that case we were the client, and the architect made the mistake that many software houses make with their own clients.
Which is to promise they can do it, for less time and less money, and then decide that, like, sometime down the line when it gets close to delivery date and it's clear the software is only 1/3 of the way built, they're going to find some way to soothe the client and take more money and take more time in order to complete
because there is another very bad aspect that equivalent to those people at the casino. Once the client has gave you $500,000 to implement it to a certain point, the capacity to say, okay, you know, you fucked up, maybe I sue you or not, go away and I start fresh with another company, is hard.
Yeah.
It's easier to say, okay, that's more money, but this time finish. That's more money, but this time finish, and keep losing more and losing more, and more you lose, more you want to put money in order to save the day.
And this is what we call the sunk cost fallacy.
Exactly.
So it's the fallacy that because I've already committed a lot of resources to something, even if it's not making any profitable, even if it's not working, I don't want to waste the resources that I put in and admit to myself that they became nothing, and I continue investing there to try to get something out of it, even if there's no rational reason to do so.
So to summarize, IT business is a complex business because the engine that produces the value is not machinery that you buy, that is maintained, that you press a button and you resell the product. It's a lot of very talented humans with the difficult personalities most of the time, okay? And the very complex and intelligent work that they do is hardly communicated to the client that is paying for a service that in his head is different from what he's gonna get. So the mediation of what the request is and what the offer can be to match the request need to be leveraged a lot and put the right people in the middle that know how to close this communication properly. So one account manager that probably is not so literate in technology but understand it already, they can communicate with the client and understand better what the client perspective is. One project manager that understands the technology deeply, and these two people communicate and make noise and get the fights in-house and not in front of the client. So the client has one unique single point of communication with somebody that is following honestly the client and honestly wants the best product for the client. It has to be an employee of the IT company. So this is a very important aspect to succeed. Second important thing is that when a new project is started, there must be a very clear agreement, detailed to the minimum lower level possible. So this more precise specification of each thing need to be put down in a way that are understood, and this need to be presented to the client in the best way as possible and need to be signed off. Following this is very important to always keep reading this. It's not a phase that you close, you get it signed, put it in a drawer and start working.
This
because
becomes the Bible for the implementation.
You end up forgetting what you agreed on. Both sides end up forgetting what was the agreement.
Yes.
So these people in the middle, the account manager and the project manager, need to have this document with them daily. As soon as there is a request from the client that doesn't match what was initially agreed, need to be recontracted, put another contract, and agreed that he can create a delay, and this will be signed off. So the client is aware of what happened. At the same time, if there is a complexity that become much more work with respect to something that was agreed in a certain terms, can be evaluated. That is, whose fault is internal, we expected that, and can be discussed and brought to a solution with the client. Those are important key factors to the success of project for an IT company, a software house.
These are things, pieces of wisdom that they sound obvious enough on paper. If you go and start an IT company, you're going to run into these situations. You're going to not realize how important they are and think you can just kind of wing it. And something is going to really catch on fire and blow up in your face. If you're lucky, you'll have the opportunity to try again, and you'll realize why it's important, which I think is the path, the trial by fire that anybody who does this kind of work has to do. It's one thing to know theoretically that these are the correct steps. It's another thing to have been through the failure and the challenge of it and then really learn from the pain.
But the wise person can learn from other people's mistakes or can appreciate suggestions from people that have been through the pain. But what is important to understand is not because you and two other friends can code well, you are okay as a full company that runs. There are aspects in running a company, a relationship with the client, and contractual aspect with the client that just because you code, it means that you can't, because there are two different approach. So if you are a group of friends that want to start this sort of company, make sure that you value the technical aspect of developer as much as you value to have into the founders group people that has the ability and capacity to do the non-technical aspect that are as important as the implementation. Nobody is more important than somebody else. So
without both pieces, the sale doesn't work.
Exactly. They close a good sales, they can manage the client properly, but nobody makes the software, fail. Makes the software that is not what the client wants, fail. You need to have both parties working together in a very mature way and dealing with clients that are serious, because there are clients that are clowns as well. As much as there are software houses that are clowns, there are clients that are clowns. So choose the right client, work properly with them, and have at least two parts of the IT company to deal with the client.
That's all she wrote. That's how you do it.
That's how you do it.
So we expect to see your software consultancy next week.
Exactly. And wishing the best success to all the people that want to start a business. Blockchain is even more complex.
I think we should humble ourselves to say that there's a lot that we've learned, but it's still a process that we learn. Always with more experience. There's no end to the level of competence that you can have in this field, and new experiences that inform you about how things can be done better. So we work with ourselves every day to look at experiences we had in the past and experiences we have on current projects, and try to figure out still how we make it smoother, because it's the wild, wild west out there when it comes to software development.
Never stop learning.
Don't underestimate these kind of boring-looking guys hunched over in an office and think that it's a boring work, because it really gets crazy sometimes.
Bye bye everybody, and sampai jumpa.